We're building Undertale in Minecraft on a giant scale. Last episode, we worked on the first Undyne chase scene in Waterfall, and today, we'll be working on Napstablook's house, which conveniently is right next door to the room we were working on before. But before we jump right into the build, we need to establish a palette, not only for the cave, but for the houses as well. Now, thankfully, building the cave should be relatively easy, as it's the same biome as the room right next to it. So, we can make use of all the same blocks in the previous room and only worry about the shape of the cave. See, a big problem I had with the previous room that we worked on was that the lighting was very sporadic in order to make the cave actually visible, which kinda led to all the walls blending together in the light. Because it was either that, or having it mostly dark, which wouldn't exactly give us much of a view. But now, we can lean more into the dark vibes of the cave and have a much easier time with the lighting, as the cave will now be focusing on Napstablook's house, so we can light up the house's area while keeping the surrounding cave darker, which should make it look better. Do not quote me on that. Which brings us to the actual buildings. So, what are the house's palettes that we're going to be using? After many attempts from Ashton and getting the right colours, she has worked up this palette, which, I won't lie, I think this is probably one of the sickest designs for the house I've ever seen. See, the big problem when it comes to designing houses is trying to get a good balance of the scale of the house and also the right shape. And if you looked at the shapes of these houses, they look like AirPods. How do you build houses like this? So this is the rough designs that we will be going for the overall house. Now, one of my favourite parts about the designs of this house is the use of skulk and then the use of wood for both the colour palette. Because you've both got these, like, sort of gradients going up to the top of the roof. Except skulk actually somehow works with terracotta and the wood works with terracotta also. I don't know colours. I just know this looks really cool. I actually did end up modifying a bit. Ignore this. I actually did end up modifying it a bit to add a bit more texture into the design. So while you can see, I've kept most of the design the same. However, I've added a bit more gradient going from the skulk into the block so it looks less like a harsh cut on the outside, and more like something that's actually ingrained into the rocks of the building. And same with the wood, I've kind of just made it just spread out a bit more and have a bit more depth to it aside from just the stripped logs going up the side. Now, there is one thing about these houses, is the fact that the cave that we're building it in actually connects to where Undyne's house is going to be and the snail farm and the room in front of it. So all of this is going to technically be one cavern. Now, obviously, that is a lot of terraforming and a lot of detailing. It's 4 rooms combined into one. So, with the room established and the house design established, how about we just go right into building a bunch of the terraforming? Because there is a ton to do. I don't want this to take months just because the cave is probably going to become very massive. So 3, 2, 1. And after an unholy amount of time, we've finally finished all the deep slaying. And the first thing you can probably notice is the fact that the cave is much bigger than it was probably intended to be. I'm sure you all know who you can blame for that. But you know, I'm not exactly complaining. I do really like the shape of the cave. It does make it far more interesting. It did just mean I had to do a lot more. Now, you can actually tell which part of the cave is going to be the main focus point, because while it is a lot more elaborate than in-game, the actual pathing is pretty identical. You know, you come up from the main centre, you go up to the Napstablook houses, and then if you come along here, you actually get to head over to the snail farm. Now, there is one problem with the snail farm. You may notice, this is the snail race. There is no snail farm here. There's two options we can do for this. One, we can just, you know, put the snail farm here and put them in the same room, because, you know, the alternative is just building a whole other cavern here. At least, that's what you'd think. You see, in the game, the snail race is technically in another cavern. Something we can easily build right here. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Fox? So, if we made a mini cave here just for the snail race, it would actually make it so we can put the snail farm here, and it would actually make it even more canon accurate than we intended, because it would separate the two only slightly, but it's technically in the same cavern. So, I'm going to focus on detailing most of this cave that we're in right now. Now, you probably noticed this, but Undyne's house is just kind of sitting here. And before anyone says anything, this is not the final design of the house. I think the shape is actually pretty spot on in terms of what we're going for. Colors, though, not the biggest fan, I won't lie. But Ashton has just put her current design in the now, just to get a rough scale and just see what the vibe is for combining these two caves. But back to our main focus point of today. The houses are in place, the terraforming has mostly been done, aside from the detailing. And this bit down here, truthfully, I don't think this part of the cave is going to get finished, because technically it's a separate room, and neither of us know what we're doing with this part. Not to mention, this area technically connects to the marsh, which I don't know if you can tell, these are not the same colour, which would require figuring out a good way of blending the two. But aside from all those problems, we do technically have the cavern filled to connect everything together. Now, I have built a secret behind this wall, and just for you, I'm going to showcase what's behind it, okay? Promise not to tell Ashton or Squid I'm about to do this. If we just get rid of this wall here, I'm about to unveil the sickest build I have ever done in my life, okay? Are you ready for this? You're gonna be blown away, you could say. I think that's enough to blow up the wall, I'm sure. Behind this wall. Oh my gosh, would you look at that? Oh, it's a work of art. I have no words. I guess you know what you have to do now. Okay, I'll stop, that was really stupid. So, how about one final time lapse to detail this entire thing, and we can finally see what this cave looks like once it's all finished. 3, 2, 1. And at long last, the cave is complete. For the most part. We're gonna ignore this side of the cave for obvious reasons. But in terms of actual details and things for the pathway, and the ceiling and all that funky stuff, I'd say everything's come together very nicely. Now, something I didn't mention, because it was something that we added at the last minute, is these really funky looking crystals in this cave. Now, as many of you are probably aware, Waterfall does have its fair share of crystals scattered about the cave. And also, this cave is right next to Gerson's cave, which I'm pretty sure has a bunch of crystals in it. So, this cave, unlike the one we've just built, makes a lot more sense to have a bunch of crystals and stuff, like, breaking through the rocks. Not only that, but it's such a neat detail to look up at the ceiling and see all these glowing crystals. Now obviously I've got to add more crystals over in that direction, as I mainly focus on just getting this area done for the most part. As, let's be honest, this is the iconic shot right here. This is the eye candy. I also added a tree in here, not canon at all, but I thought it looks real neat. I don't know, I've never really built a tree like this before, so it's kind of a first attempt. But I think it came out really nice. And of course, we did end up fixing the snail race and snail farm situation. So now there is room to put the actual snail farm here. And if we go through here, we've got the very, very work in progress cave for the snail race. Obviously, lighting and everything and detail has not been done, but that was not the focus for today, so I will not be worrying about it. But yeah, I'm just... oh my god. And the inside of the houses, as far as I'm aware, has mostly been complete. I think the walls might get a bit more decorated and things, so it's not as dark. In terms of, like, decoration and stuff, I would say Ashton really knocked it out of the park with this one. Like, look at this. The game never even showcases 3 floors. This is just here. And not to mention the iconic Napstablook house. Got the nice little computer, we got the fridge, which, oh my gosh, I actually love this design. We've got a second floor up here, which I think is just general storage and things. A really ominous cupboard as well. And, of course, the bedroom. I think this is one of my favourite designed rooms that Ashton has done, by the way. I don't know, it's just so cozy, and the colours and things just work so well together. And jumping out the window right here, we have the back garden area. Now, me and Ashton didn't really have an idea of what to fill the garden with, but Ashton did put these little storage things and fences around, which I do think look really nice. And I did build a path and things, you know, connecting the whole area together. Now, something I really want to just say real quick. Berries, glowberries, they are so annoying to work with. Look at how nice the ambience is over here. Look at how evenly shaded everything is. Look at the scenery, the vibes here. Take it in. And then you turn your head to the luminous glowing berry. That is created with one block, which is... how does one piece of berry glow more than the entirety of that section being lit with any other lighting material? What are they made of? Radioactive waste? Yeah, I think that's one of my biggest gripes with the initial cave, is just, now that I'm looking at it, I do really like the look of them. But still, they're so vibrant. It's insane. It makes any other darker part of the cave look so barren. I could turn down the gamma all the way, and everything... look how bright they are! Comparison to everything else being dark. It's not even a joke. This is just insane. But I'll move on from the berry situation. I'm sure you'll understand. But yeah, the actual house and the main cave, I would say, is mostly complete. And I am so happy with how this cave came out. It's probably one of my favourite in terms of just the way the atmosphere just ties together this whole room. It's so nice. The crystals, the colours of the houses, just the waterfalls and things going around. It just ties together so nicely. So I think that's all I have to showcase for this episode. I think next Undertale build video, I'll be focusing in on the very first ruins room that we still haven't built, despite the fact it's been... oh my gosh, we're coming up to 4 years now. Anyway, I'll see you, hopefully not too long. That's the end of the video. Goodbye!